Hey now, what's up, people? Sorry, a few minutes late as usual. It's later than the late time that I said I was going to start. But anyway, what's up, everybody? Ready to do some social distancing? In the video description, I said social distancing since 2018 because that's what we do here on Sundays. Yeah. And Mesa Guitar Guy says he's an introvert, so he's been doing it since 1980. So it's okay. We'll be healthy. All us introverts. My knees hurt's got a guitar lesson later today. Sit 6 feet apart from your teacher. Adam Sanders is here. He says, good morning. So socially distant. We got to be like that, like Michael Bolton in Office Space. Are you the Adam Sanders? Are you related in any way? Oh, Adam Sandler. That's what I was thinking. Sorry, not Sanders. I'm getting Bernie Sanders and Adam Sandler mixed up. That's just because it's early. Yep. I've been social distancing and I'm awkward. Adam Sanders. Oh, man. Hello from Bangkok. Jim's in Bangkok. What's up, man? What's going on over there? That place is crazy. I was there a few months ago. Fun, though. Is there a new Pete-like box coming out? Is it smaller, says Braxall? I don't know. I haven't talked to Peter, actually, for a while. Do you mean that he's making or someone else? I'm not sure. Hello. Scott Chandler says, are you using an Apollo 10 for your Apollo X? I guess that's the newest Universal. I have an 8P, so it's not that old. I mean, I got it like, it's probably going on 2 years now, but I feel like I just got a new one and then they come out with another one, of course. I don't really feel a need to change from what I've got. I still have my original Apollo 8 that's in my rack here, and I use it as, because you can link them and then use them as cores, sort of like an accelerator for the plugins and stuff. So I'm still using the original 8, not for audio, but it's hooked up via a Thunderbolt cable to the other one, and they just kind of, daisy chain, I don't know, use the processing is what I'm saying. So I've got 8 cores with the 2, and I don't really feel like I need more than that. I've got a satellite, but I never use it anymore because once I figured out I could link these 2, 8 cores is enough for most of the stuff I do as far as plugins go, but I can always hook up the satellite if I have to. Blah, 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 blah. And then I've got a newish Apollo Twin, which is 4-core, I think. I believe it is 4-core, the Twin I have, the latest one. And that's what I used on my clinic tour. Nothing works great. What else we got here? Chino says, hello from Mexico. What's up? How you doing down there? Lauren was sick. He says he's still on 100%, but doing better than last week. Good, man. Rad pair of glasses, says Samrat. Thank you. I bought these in Tokyo, and they're just reading glasses that help tremendously. They're actually the only pair I've got that don't, like all the other ones I bought were from the drugstore. And these are the only ones that don't strain my eyes. And I actually went to one of those, what's it called? Gins or what? Jins? Gins. And they actually did a test. I thought, what if I go to an eyeglass place, even with my contacts in, and get a test on top of those and see if they can figure out exactly what reading glasses I need. And it was these. So there you go. I guess pays to not, I don't know. The other ones I've tried always, I feel strained or they don't do enough. So these are just right. What else we got here? Hi from Chilliwack. Any Vancouver area clinics planned? Man, I'd love to get back up there to Vancouver. It's been so long. Not that I know of. I believe there's a Sir Dealer in town, and I'd love to go there and do it. But all the other clinics that we've talked about doing some this year. Of course, who knows what the hell is going to happen now with everything that's going on. Probably just should wait before we talk about it anymore. But there's about 6 or 7 that they've brought up to me for the, sometime around May, something like that, to kind of try and tackle. So, but Vancouver wasn't one of them. I'd love to get up there. I really would. Do I always shoot and edit my videos, says Mirren? Yes. That's why the video quality isn't always that great. I've still figured out my cameras. The last one I did, which was for this terrific pedal called the Magellan, this one right here. I just put it up. You'll notice some of the video is rather grainy, and that's because I had my camera set wrong. One of the cameras that I have here, the settings I had, but I shot the whole video and then I saw the footage and I was like, oh, it's dark and grainy, and like, oh, that's right, I forgot to put it back on this other setting. It's hard when you're trying to like compose a song, be your own camera guy, all that stuff. You know, like it's just hard to keep on top of everything, but I like to think that makes it charming. I don't know. Editing mostly, yeah, I do my own. Sometimes I get somebody else to do a little bit of it, but mostly it's me. We got Ego Andy in Boca Raton. He says, love you too, man. Hope you're well. Okay, what else we got here? What do you use to edit video software? I use Final Cut. It's the only thing I've ever used besides iMovie. Kind of like Logic. I just went to Logic, and then that's the only thing I've ever used. So it's all the Apple stuff. Yeah. Yuri Rachel Jensen says, you once said the Boss Fuzz was amazing, but what generation of the pedal is it? The one I like is actually the Hyper Fuzz. Yeah, that's right. Although I like the Boss, like just the regular fuzz, the FZ3 or whatever's out now. One, it's cool too. I like Boss fuzzes because they just work. A fuzz is such a specific effect, though. Like whether you're going for the octave, the Hyper Fuzz kind of does this Octavia thing, but it tends to work well for chords too, and just sounds really like I love doing that heavy atmospheric with tons of reverb, low chords thing with it because it just has this crazy sound that's really cool. But it's not dissimilar to me. The Hyper Fuzz is kind of like a Big Muff, but with an octave. It sounds something like that. So it's like a Big Muff with something going on with the upper octave. So it's its own unique thing. But I love Fuzz Face too. But to me, it's like a completely different sound. You know, and there's so many different varieties of fuzz, and it's like, oh, this one's for the Pink Floyd thing, and this one's for Hendrix, and this one's for Smashing Pumpkins, and this one's for something else. You know, it just depends on like what sound you're trying to go for. You really got to have, like, that's why I actually had a Fuzz Face and a Big Muff style on my board for this run, because I needed it for the last tour. I needed them both. Sean says, Pete, hey brother, wishing everyone well. Hope they have fun under self-quarantine. Well, at least we can do this. We can all hang out here. It's good. It's the perfect thing to do. Gabrielle says, can you send a virtual hug to my brothers and sisters in Italy? They could use a big one right now. I know, man. The poor people over there. I feel so bad for them because they just kind of got the wallop thing. And that's the news to really look at. I always say to people, just look at what's going on there if you want to know what, you know, can happen. It's not good, you know, so follow their lead, because with whatever they're doing now, otherwise, you know, you pretty much headed down the same path. So news out of northern Italy. I saw a great thing. I don't want to dwell on this too much today because we've all been hearing nothing. I could easily go down that path, and I want to talk about guitar, but I saw a great article in Newsweek from a guy. It was titled something, if you want to look it up, it was titled something like "Healthy and Young, and so you're not worried about coronavirus. Good for you," something like that. And then it talked a lot about like, hey, yeah, sure, you're healthy and young, but you know, what about how's it sound to maybe have to do like 3 months of physiotherapy, you know, because that could happen to you even though you're young, you know, depending on how bad it gets. Or how would you like to you know, have reduced lung capacity for the rest of your life from scarring from so much coughing and stuff like that. So it talked about, you know, the realities of, and it's written by a European doctor, I think in Italy, and talking about the kind of the reality of what's going on. And it was just very sobering, kind of like really good. So those are the people. That's all I'm going to say. With the whole thing, listen to scientists and doctors and folks like that. They're kind of on the front lines of things for the reality. Not anybody that's got skin in the game, right? You know, like your boss or people like that. It's maddening when there's people that are, have their own self-interest or money or whatever. So, because it's a friggin' virus. It doesn't discriminate, eh? I don't know what accent that was. Flipper Carlin says, so your favorite Marshall in a pedal or a brown sugar? Very good pedal. Favorite would have to be, I gotta give the folks from Origin credit, because they made that, the Revival Drive and the Revival Drive Mini are really exceptional. Sort of, they've gone to the farthest lengths of like making a pedal that's very, very, very amp-like, and even has the negative feed, or not negative feedback, but the I think it does have something like that in it, but it's got the ghost notes. The ghost notes is the biggest thing in the Revival Drive that blew my mind. Try it and you'll see what I mean. It's got this extra layer of fatness when you roll in the control for the ghost notes that affects chords and things. And it also, when you play a single note, it like does that ghost notey, fattening, thickening. And if it's too high, it starts to sound a little weird underneath but real amps do that. And it's like, oh yeah, that is a thing missing from pretty much every pedal. Like, like if you've got an old plexi and low filtering and all that stuff and all the kind of muck that happens under it, or an AC30 that happens under a single note, and every now and then you hear the two notes going on under one, you guys don't know what I'm talking about, but there's this phantom note thing. And the pedal does that. And it really, when you hear it, it's like addicting, the effect that it has. So it's really incredible. And as well as the ability to tune it to almost any amplifier, like whether you've got a Vox AC30 on the normal channel, or a Marshall, that's set clean on the bright channel, or, pretty much anything, Scoop AC30 on the normal channel, or a Marshall, that's set clean on the bright channel, or, pretty much anything, Scoop, the exceptional pedal. Thank you, Pete, says Gabrielle up there in the love you, man. From now on, just guitar questions from me. All good, man. It's okay. It's crazy times. It's like on everybody's mind. So, and I feel bad for like all the folks over there. I just got back from there, of course. Like it feels like yesterday, that I was over in Milan and Rome and Naples, and then took a little time over in Positano, which was just one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. That was incredible. But anyways, you doing any Japan gigs this summer? Changes or cancellation worry, says Michael. Not that I know of. I had some plans for something over in Japan, but I think I'm just going to kind of, see how this whole thing goes before I start scheduling anything. Because it's actually a really cool idea. That I sort of, I guess I shouldn't really talk about yet, but it involves like doing kind of like a combination of clinic as well as recording, and having people be a part of it and being able to attend. Paul Gilbert's doing a thing that kind of inspired me. Although I had the idea separately, but then I saw he's doing a similar idea where you can actually like go watch him record his record. And so I had an idea to do something similar like that, do some songs and stuff like that, but make it a kind of a recording clinic, so that, it's a little like you can totally be a fly on the wall, and from, drums, bass to, getting guitar tones to everything, actually tracking and stuff like that, and having a limited number of people sort of be able to be a part of that. I thought it might be really cool. So I'm sure that'll happen eventually, but we'll see. And I wanted to do it in Japan primarily. But it would be a thing that obviously would probably work anywhere. So, but I'm just going to kind of hold off on that for a little bit. With all the ins and outs, can an amp Pete be much smaller, says Ian? That's an excellent point. So the amp Pete is my amp switcher. Somebody was asking about, is there going to be a smaller one in the works? And I would agree with that it's like, it's a little difficult. Now there is the if you just want to switch between two amplifiers into one cabinet, there's the radial unit, that works quite well. So, and it's the size of one of those radial kind of big pedals. Not very big, but yeah, as soon as you start to do 4 amps or whatever, it's a lot of jacks, because you need an amp for the, you need sends to go to every single amp. And then you need a speaker return from every single amp. So that's 8 1/4-inch jacks right there. So at that point, you're pretty much, no matter what, it's going to be a half rack type size, right? Kind of is what it is. It's a lot of jacks. There might be something smaller, but not that I know of right now. Okay. Moving down in the chat here. Dale wants to learn Like a Stone by Audioslave for an audition. What effects do you use in the verses when you play with Chris Cornell? Well, it's got a tremolo. So, and it's very difficult to time the tremolo perfectly to anything. I always thought if I ever did those songs again, which I sadly won't, but if I was to do them again, I had planned on using a slicer from Boss, because I thought if I could play it to a click, to the hi-hat, and it was timed to a click, the Boss slicer could time MIDI clock or whatever the hi-hat, and then you could have a perfectly timed tremolo. Gasoline was another one. Gasoline, though, by Audioslave might have been a delay, I think. It kind of does this thing where it's like, and I almost wonder if it was like maybe it was done with a studio effect, like a plug-in, and it was cut to a click, and then you could time the. So I'm not. It sounds like a tremolo, but I think it might be a ... delay, where you hit the note and then one echo comes back, because he did that at the beginning of Cochise too. I finally figured out how to play that, where if you do a 16th note delay, a quick 16th note delay, and the beginning of Cochise, if you tap the strings on the guitar like that, and then have the repeat come back, so if that makes sense, then you can hit the guitar in time and just have the one repeat come back, and it does that helicopter-like sound. I didn't know that when I was playing with Chris, and we used to not do the intro anyway to Cochise. We kind of did an altered version of it or something. But it was like, oh shit, that's how he did it. And I remembered like years later, or I figured it out years later how to do it. So since then, I've done it at some jams and things like that around LA, and played it the right way with a delay pedal. But there was, anyways, Like a Stone. God, I digress. Tremolo on the verse, and I guess I use a little compression and tremolo. And one thing about Morello to know that I didn't realize, but from a rig rundown I learned with him, is that he always, even all these years I played his parts with Chris, he used the neck pickup all the time. Never goes to the bridge pickup, and he kind of obviously EQs the amp for that and stuff, So, but I never realized he's not a bridge pickup guy at all. It's all, whenever he's playing dirty anything, it's the neck pickup on the guitar. So that's a good thing to know. Kind of crazy, I used to hit, like when we play Like a Stone, I'd do the verses either in the middle position, because I play on a Les Paul usually, and I'd do the either middle position or the neck, I guess, and then I'd hit the bridge pickup for the choruses, but he'd just stay on the neck pickup, which makes sense. If you listen to it, it sounds like that, and it just sounds like it's not all woolly, and he probably just ran the bass almost off on a Marshall or whatever. And Patrick Carroll's in the top chat, and he says, Pete, you're a gem. Sorry if this is a repeat. Thanks, man. But could you describe in detail your approach technique to bending and vibrato? Specifically, vibrato bent up one whole step. Well, you pretty much just have to get a guitar. You pretty much just have to practice bending up to a note. So practice getting the note up to pitch by playing, say, on the second string. Okay, playing the A note on the 10th fret. Then I'm bending the G string at the 12th fret up to the 14th, the A note that would be on the 14th fret. And then once you do that, you have to practice holding the note up there and shaking it and coming back to the pitch, if that makes sense. So work on getting the pitch first. I'm doing it the first string and the second string. And then once you work on holding the note up there and then letting it go and releasing it and bringing it back up to pitch, releasing it back up to pitch. You don't want it to sound like, where the note falls off. I don't know if you can hear that well. I could plug in here. Maybe I get just like a clean sound going. It'll just take me a second. I got my little Princeton amp here in the room, and I can turn it on. Sec. Okay, that should come on in a minute, in theory. Up. Oh, I gotta. There we go. I've got a little 68 Princeton, one of those little silver face ones in here now, and it's really nice having just a, you know, a clean amp in here. So. You want to get the note up to the pitch and then release it a little and then bring it back to the pitch. And then you want to practice maybe just different speeds once you're holding it up there. What's that weird double note? Oh, I know what it is, because I got a fan. You guys ever have a fan on in the same room you're playing? I've got my little heater on here. I know that's what it is. And they work at a, I got one of those little Vornado heaters on that's right in front of the amp. Did you hear that? Could you hear the weird double note when I was hitting this D? I just turned off the heater. Now it's gone. If you've ever got that happening, like sometimes when the AC comes on in a room or there's a fan on in the same room that you're playing and something sounds out of tune with certain notes, turn the fan off and it goes away. It drives me crazy, but it's just happening right now. I was like, what's that? Talk about ghost note. Crazy. So, you know, just work on that. And it's kind of cool to do it with a clean sound too, with no help from gain. And it's just a muscle thing. And it doesn't take that long to develop, generally speaking. It's like, I remember when I used to teach guitar a lot, and I would show students that, and they'd work on it, you know, week after week. And it was maybe like 3 weeks in, all of a sudden they were bending the note and holding it, and then vibrating. Like, there it is, you've got it, you know. And it's just like a muscle thing, really. Okay, I'm way back in the chat, so I'm going to move down a little bit, and let's see here. I hate playing with fans in the stage area. Such a crap sound, says George. Isn't it weird? It took me a long time to figure out what it is. I had a couple situations where it was like, what the hell is wrong with the sound? And then I'd realize it was these fans, and they blow this sound, and or oscillate with the, I don't know what it is. It's like blow the sound. They blow the air, and it's like they do something to the sound waves or whatever, and the tuning gets weird. Scott's here in the Olympic Peninsula. Hope you're well up there, my friend. Would you please demonstrate your technique for pick slide? Well, one of the ones that I always do is the old Eddie Van Halen. It's almost better to do the stuff with a clean sound. You can hear so. So, you know, if you're playing, like, let's say, that's how you play that riff, right? So it's really necessary to do the so it's slide and then slide the hand. And it's like necessary to get that sound. It's kind of funny to hear it like with no distortion, but it's like almost better to. Can't see your hand, says Rich. Maybe you were talking about the bending thing, because I was talking about that, and this is still so. I don't know. Really, I'm just bending. Of course, I'm using two fingers behind the note that I'm bending for support. And then the pick slide. Hit the slide and then do a slide with your hand. That's the main pick slide. Any words of wisdom for young guitar players, especially pertaining to musicianship? Mainly it's just like play with other people. It's the big one that I think lately. Like play with time. and with other musicians, and practice playing with drummers, and not just at home alone practicing shred licks while sitting down. You know, you kind of have to play standing up with other musicians and listen to other players and stuff and get used to playing in time. You know, so that, you know, you've always got a time reference, because like that's really the big thing is when you get in a room with other players, you know, and drummers and stuff, you're gonna want to be, you know, making sure that you've been paying attention to time and listening to time, and playing standing up, and playing something standing up in front of people is completely different than playing sitting down and getting a perfect take for YouTube or whatever in front of a camera. It's like, you know, a totally different skill set almost. And things that work, and the things in a, you know, with a big crowd there, you know, the things that people will pay attention to and that will hold their interest and move them, is a completely different skill set than practicing, you know, your sweep arpeggios in front of a camera or whatever, which just almost doesn't even really translate at all. Like I find, you know, unless you're Yngwie or something and you're a stellar showman at the same time, you know, trying to, I don't know, it's really just, you know, a matter of like, you almost have to do it. You learn so much by playing one gig in front of people, you know, and actually going, oh, well, that thing didn't work at all, but this other thing really worked. You know what I mean? Like little things like hitting one note and bending it and feeding back in front of people can be like more effective than playing 10,000 notes or whatever, in front of a crowd. Inspired of Victory says, I'm thinking about doing a telly build. Do you have a favorite bridge? 3 saddle, 6 saddle, brass, steel. I like classic. I really like the bridges that they use, because they do still use the 3 barrel saddle. You know, it'd be an interesting question for John to actually ask him like what he likes. I like the Wilkinson, you know, I love the tone of the Wilkinson bridges I've been using. I would look at whatever Trev's got, like actually. I'll tell you, the saddles that are on my, the guitar, like these, this guitar, they improve the tone of whatever I'm putting them on, which is really not something I had expected. I was doing it really for the tuning primarily, but so they're really great. And I'm really sold on his bridges. So I would look at whatever he's doing. My original telly has a great sound. It's got the original saddles, which I assume are brass, right? Original tellies, but I'm not an expert on this stuff, on telly saddles, to be honest. So, you know, I've only got, out of all the, if you look at the guitars I've got my one old telly, and then, you know, I've got a Sir Alt T, and I've got a Mac Mull that's got a similar bridge actually. Which is just vintage style saddles with the grooves in them, you know. So that's about it, really. But let's see what else we got here. We can't see your fretting hand, says Michael. Yeah, hopefully you saw that. I mean, you know, I was just saying to, you know, basically about hearing it was more important, really. It's about getting the note in tune when you bend. And using your other fingers behind for support. And always being able to, when you're vibratoing, get back up to the pitch. Don't go over the pitch, though, you know? Hold the note up there and then give it a shake. And try and stay as, you know, close to being in tune as possible. What else we got here? Can you do a Van Halen 2 album tone? Van Halen 2 is really just, to me, crank plexi. So that's it. I can't right now because I've just got the Princeton plugged in here in the room, which tends to work well if I'm for this. I think that's a good idea. I'll just do this in the future. The Hot Post says a super chat got missed for what it's worth, but it's okay. Let me see if I can find your thingamajig. I dig the way Jeff Beck will bend into key and sometimes in and out of key, says Arthur. He's a master, I mean, and it's really just the him listening all the time, because he never tunes. If you go see him play live these days, I noticed he never tunes the damn guitar, and he's probably way out of tune, but he's always just playing, with the bar and bending and stuff like that, almost like you would the human voice or whatever. It's incredible. He's always just working with it to make it work, kind of. He's unbelievable. And John Sir mentioned to me that he noticed he barely ever bends strings. It's all bar, I found that interesting. Let me find your chat there, Mr. Hoppo. There you are. Another Ampete question. Can you blend amps with it? No. Great question there from you, my friend. And no, it's not a thing that you can blend with. You have to select the amp and then go through, it's something kind of interesting. So first thing, Michael Beinhorn, who's epic record producer, he did Super Unknown by Sound. He came in here and I showed him the amp switchers. The first thing he asked me, he goes, well, can you blend with that then? And I go, no. It's sort of pick a cabinet and pick one amp at a time. I guess if you had two, you would need a setup with two Ampete switchers, maybe, if it was something where you wanted to blend amps. It could be done. Not really that hard to do, but yeah, you would need two, and then probably what I would probably recommend is 2 of his 4x4 switchers then, and have the amps that you want to blend, like 4 of them on one switcher and 4 on another, instead of having 8 all on one switcher like I do. That would be what you would need to do, and then you could actually have 4 of the amps on one switcher, 4 on the other. Use something like the switcher. Like I've got an RJM switcher here in my studio that I split out. One side's going to my modeling stuff, my Hilux and Axe-Fx and stuff that's over here on this side of the desk. The other side goes to the real amps in the switcher. Instead, you could just have both sides go to, or you could have one of those JD8s from Radio, the outputs from one guitar to different places in the studio. Those are great for, at that point, though, it's almost like something like a JD8 might be, and a patch bay, for doing the amps might be better, and just manually plugging in the cabinets. I don't know if I would go with 2 amp switchers of that. It seems like, well, there's other ways to do what you're asking, that might make more sense. I tend to use 1 amp at a time. I don't do too much of that blending 2 amps for one sound. Maybe I should do more. I don't know. Technically, I could do that in here, though. Yeah, there's no reason why not. I've got my switcher here. One side, this cable right here is going to my modeling rig. So I could take this instead and just run this into, I could use my amp switcher on one output. Yeah, and then take this and go to a different amplifier and have it mic'd up in the other. There's actually 2 cabinets. And in theory, within about 10 or 15 minutes, I could have even with the amp switcher setup, I could have a blending kind of rig where I'm blending 2 sounds. Wouldn't be a hard thing to do. Word up from Minneapolis, says Dan. What's up, man? How are you? Yeah, let's see. Everything about writing a book on your experiences with guitars, amplifiers, your enthusiasm on music literature is very enlightening. A big fan of your phenomenal playing. Thanks, man. That's Ryan. Appreciate that. I haven't really thought about writing a book, but it might be an interesting. I remember when they compiled Steve Morse's columns from Guitar Player magazine into a book, which was really cool, and I bought it actually because I loved his column that he wrote for Guitar Player magazine. And I've now written since 2011 or 12, which means if how many years is that? It's like 8 years, 9 years times 12 columns is how many columns I've written for Premiere. So there's enough there for a book, I think. Probably to just compile the columns, different topics into a book. Maybe I should bring that up to them. You've given me an idea. Alan says, do you ever have the urge to seek out and discover a new artist or guitar player? If so, do you have any recommendations to check out? Man, I just found this kid his name's James. Shouldn't call him a kid, but he is young. I mean, God, rock the kid thing as long as you can, right? His name, he's on Instagram. I'm gonna give him a shout out because he actually recorded a little guitar lesson for me this week because he was playing this really killer lick, and I was like, dude, how do you do? And he wrote this great thing too. I'm gonna give him a shout out here because I think his name is James Ayrton, JAMES_AYRTON _. on Instagram. Check him out, man. He's ripping. Really great guitar player with some great licks. Anyway, he had this sort of, he called it Eddie Van Halen style. And I don't know if it sounded like Van Halen to me really, but it sounded unique and cool. And he recorded a little lesson and he put it up. You'll find it if it's like 3 posts back on his Instagram. But anyways, he wrote this riff too. I noticed because he was playing Phil X posted a thing where he said, this guy nailed a solo from my song better than anybody I've ever heard do it. And there's a video of James playing Phil's solo, that Phil was so impressed with. So that's how then I went to James's thing, as you do with social media. One thing leads to another. And I was like, wow, this guy's amazing. He's a young dude in England. But anyway, he wrote something. Let me see if I can find it here. Maybe I can just play it. No. So really killer riff. I'll put a second here into seeing if I can find it. And if I can't, then it's just... not finding it. It's so cool. It was like this riff that he wrote. Oh, this is the Van Halen thing. What a nice riff. I like it. It goes on and on and on. I was like, that's really cool. Can you show me how to do that? But and he made me like a little slowed down lesson of it, which was really nice. He's got riffs though that he's written on here. It's not just like shreddy riffs. I mean, it's like song riffs that I was so impressed with. So anyway, giving him a shout out. How else do you find people? God, to me, they're just everywhere. I mean, it's like you just start looking on Instagram and you'll find somebody that blows you away, Or, I mean, a great resource still, it kind of tends to be an older crowd, but if you look in the Soundhound Lounge on the Gear page, there's always somebody bringing up like, wow, check out the new album from so-and-so, or whatever. And I'll go and find things there all the time where it's like, I've never heard this person or that person. And, that's probably where I first heard Gary Clark or, different players like that was, on the Gear page, you'd see people post about some gig they went to or a new album that they heard. And, it's such a good community, the guitar community, just pumping up each other. Everybody's always giving each other love and stuff. So it's not hard to find. Phil's already back home, according to his social media post, says Doug. Yeah, he was doing gigs, but of course he had to come home like everybody. So he's back in the States, I think. That is correct. Okay, I'm back in the chat now, so I better move down. Let's see here. Morello uses a humbucker-sized single coil in the neck, an EMG-H, I believe, says Matthias. Is that right? I thought it was just a EMG humbucker, but of course that makes sense, I guess. That it would, because it sounds kind of single coily to me. There's a lot of clarity. I thought maybe he was just EQing the hell out of the amp or something, taking all the bass out or something. But that's good to know. These are things you think I would know since I happen to play with the singer from his band. But, we just put our own trip, I guess, too. That's the other thing, is that, trying to necessarily copy the guy, but, certain things when I was playing his material, I would do the spot on as close as I could. Like, for instance, the solo to Like a Stone or something, I would play that because it's really a melodic break. It's not a solo, is it? It's part of the song melodically. But other things like in Be Yourself, I would play my own solo, and it's kind of obvious sometimes, like when you have to copy somebody's, thing where it's going to not sound like the song anymore, or when you can kind of branch out and do your own thing. All right. What else we got here? Let's see. Wade Jones says Buck Owens, Buckaroo, guitar, Don Rich, instrumental top hit of 1965. Have you heard it, Pete? Says Wade. I haven't. I'd love to hear it, though. I'm sure it's awesome. Generally speaking, those guys back then, people these days got nothing on those dudes. Just watch any old video of folks like that, or Les Paul or something from 1971, and then they're just killing. Let's see. What else? Oh, I'm so far back in the chat. I'm going to go down to the bottom here. And please ask a question again if I missed it. Wes says, do you think you could get Eddie's Van Halen 1-tone and Van Halen 2-tone with any amp in the Friedman BEOD pedal? I just bought it yesterday. I mean, it's a really great pedal to kind of go for that tone for sure. I don't know about with any amp, but it is great. The thing with the BEOD is quite high gain. So the lower gain plexi tones, I don't think it's the best choice. But for Van Halen or anything beyond, it's like a modded kind of, super high gain thing. I think it's really great. And the treble and presence controls are awesome on it for kind of shutting down the high end in a very aggressive way. So if you've got a bright sound, that's a good choice, that pedal, because you can, like a bright core tone, you can really dial that pedal in to work with almost any amp. Sort of like what I said about the Revival Drive. Just a little bit less flexibility, but anyways, are you going to do a clinic, says Braxall, the Guitar Sanctuary here in McKinney, Texas? Yes, I believe that is something that they had talked about me doing. I just don't know when now, but we have talked about that. It was one of the, for sure, it's supposed to be a great place, and I've never been there. And Stealth Parrot's wondering if anybody's got toilet paper he can buy. I'm all right. I got rolls. We got rolls here at the studio, so I can always steal one from here. I got 4 at home right now, and that's all I got left. Got to figure out when to go to the store when it's like, when there's new stock in. Have you ever met or played with Sammy Bowler? I know Sammy. Yeah, he's amazing. I found him via the Friedman amp demos. I actually shot, I feel bad because I did this rig rundown with him, and I should really finish it. It's a grown-up chord for you. Anyway, I was in Detroit, and I shot some video with Sammy, as well as Dave's other friend, Dave Black, from the band Seduce, as well as at the same time I did Cairo Knife Fight. And I already put out that one, but there's video I have in the can and audio for Sammy Bowler, as well as his rig rundown, as well as Dave Black. And I just never, it's one of those things I just haven't had time to finish. This is going on like a year and a half ago or something that I did this. And so it's just, I'm sorry I never finished it, but Sammy's amazing. He's a great player, and I will finish it at some point and put it out. Yeah. Let's see. Have you tried the Bogner Synergy modules yet? I have not, actually. I would like to, as well as the Steve Vai one. I was thinking of contacting them and saying, hey, send me that Steve Vai one, and I'll make you a video. And maybe I'd like to. Interesting, though. I am working on a demo right now for a plugin from the folks at Mercurial, which is a Russian company, and they make, plug-in amp sims. And I remember getting their Marshall package and doing video a couple of years ago. And I was really blown away. I was like, wow, I'd never heard of this company. They're out of Russia, and they make, plugins. And I plugged in, and I was like, this is a great, amp sim. Really, really good. Right from the get-go, you plug in, it's like, that sounds good. When you just, get a pedal or something and you plug it in, you're like, ooh, as soon as you turn it on, well, that's the way this amp sim was. So I'm doing one right now for a Bogner Ecstasy plugin. And it's an amp I used to own. I had an Ecstasy at one point, like a 101B or whatever. And that it's a plugin of that amp, and it really sounds good. It's not my favorite amp in the world even, but it's really satisfying to plug into and play. It's very, very realistic sounding, and it's similar to the Marshall plugin, where right out of the gate, it's just great. And you don't have to do much. The cab sims are great in it. It's got standard complement, kind of like 412s with 75s, 25s, V30s, all that stuff. And blending a 57 to 121 or a 441 mic, you can pick different ones and blend any two. Anyways, working on it right now, and I'm doing kind of a metal track with it, and it's killing. So that's one thing I'm doing right now with a Bogner kind of thing. So that'll come out this week. kind of debating, like I was working on the track and it's turning out sounding really cool. Like it's still only 1:30 long, but it sounds like a song. And I thought, do I want to put some more plugins on here to really mix this? Because it's metal and you kind of have to use EQ and stuff. And I sort of just am erring on the side of, well, screw it. I'm just going to make it sound like the plugin sounds. You guys know what I'm talking about. Like you record a guitar, if you're going for more classic tones, you don't have to do much to the tones, but trying to get hard rock or modern metal guitars fit in a track, once you've recorded them, you kind of can't just leave them as you recorded them. If they sounded kind of warm and nice and natural, now you're piling up guitars in a track and drums are in there and stuff, and you need to start adding some EQ to the guitars or it's going to get lost. If you record, maybe you know what I mean. I find, and I've got some tricks for doing that and kind of making things sound good. And I think I'm going to make that a whole separate video, is like kind of like, mixing metal guitars to make them, sound great and cut and stuff. So I'll have maybe make a little side video about that. I've got a couple little secret plugins that I use and stuff, some EQ things. But yeah, it's amazing. Like with hard rock or metal guitars, when you got stereo pair or whatever, and it's supposed to be really aggressive and stuff, you kind of have to boost a little, like 8K on like an SSL style plugin or something. And maybe somewhere around, somewhere between 3.5 and a 5K or something, you're edging that up a bit. And then 8K, you're getting a little bit of that, that upper cut edge. It's really above the range of the speaker, but it's like you're adding some of that air to the sound and making that cut. And that's, yeah, I'm not a big fan of boosting, generally speaking, but on metal guitars, you kind of have to do something. Any good practice methods for achieving Eric Johnson's or Gale style runs? Love the content. I think, to be honest, I think Andy Wood just put out a video about that. You might want to check out. He's got a new series on his YouTube that he's doing, and it's like a lesson type thing. And he just did a video, so maybe have a look at that, Drew. On it's specifically on that kind of Bonamassa / Eric Johnson style thing. I sort of fake that stuff when I'm doing that. That whole thing that he kind of, it's hard to do any of this without gain, but I've got a kind of a run I do. Something like that, that kind of reminds me of that sound. Or, stuff like that. I'm playing it kind of like slow tempo. But this whole thing is I do mostly with pull-offs. That kind of thing. Sounds better with gain. But anyways, you can get that going. It kind of sounds like that Eric Johnson. Anytime, that's another lick that you can kind of, those kind of like, and he doesn't really do that. He tends to stay within like a pentatonic kind of, position or whatever. But I'm doing it 3 notes per string. So you can go back and watch this later after it uploads, I guess, and slow that down using the YouTube slow down thing. But that's kind of a cool, with gain, that'll work with gain and kind of sound like that Eric Johnson thing. There's a lick for you. It's all pull-offs. Very easy, actually. Let's see. Stephen Douglas says, how do you know when a pickup is out of phase? Just by the volume and no low end. Yeah, it'll sound funky, like really funky. And I don't mean like I mean it'll sound like really thin. It'll sound like not well, it can sound good with certain, certainly like in the, Brian May guitar, for example, there's all those phase switches on the pickups, and then you can get those really funky tones and stuff, which can work really well. But it's like, for most tones, it's a specific sound that you might not want all the time. anytime something sounds really, really thin and all the bottom end drops out, it's generally like a phase thing when you're blending any two of anything, you know, 2 amplifiers, 2 pickups. What's my favorite tremolo pedal? I kind of tend to love the Flint style harmonic tremolo. I love that. I'm not really a big fan of just the on-off Fender thing. I have that right here in the amplifier. I could just turn it on right now. But generally speaking, I love that harmonic tremolo that almost has like a univibe, little bit of vibe going on to it. It's got a vibe going on to it. I like that. It sounds a little more like a cross between tremolo and vibe to me. And that to me, rather than the just on-off kind of tremolo thing, I don't use that much for anything. But once the harmonic tremolo started becoming a thing out there and the Flint was released and all that, I was like, oh, that's a nice sound. And then I'll use that a little bit for things. So I guess it'd have to be the Flint or the Mobius does it too. Flanger effects, thoughts, says Wade Jones. Well, you've got your jet kind of flange that sounds obviously, or Barracuda, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then you've got Andy Summers, which sounds a lot more like chorus. You know, the whole Memory Man, what's the pedal? Electric Mistress. And the Electric Mistress, of course, like, you know, Alex Lifeson and Andy Summers, and it's got a much more, and as well as David Gilmour, and it's a much more akin to just a mod kind of sound that's somewhat similar to chorusing, that rather than that jet flangey thing or the beginning of Spirit of Radio or something, you know, which was probably the same pedal but with a different, you know, what the hell's the pedal? Electric Mistress, but with a little bit of a different setting. But the ADAs and the also even just the MXR tends to have a sound like the Eddie Van Halen thing. I love the sound on the beginning of is it, God, what's the song I'm thinking of from Van Halen too? Or no, Hear About Story from Fair Warning has that amazing clean flanged thing. And I played Hear About It later on my pedal board rundown I did because I had the Van Halen flanger, and I played it the 2011 pedal board rundown I did, and it's set you know, just on the Van Halen setting with the button pushed in on the flanger. And if you listen to it, it sounds exactly like the original to me. I mean, they nailed that flanger in that. And he uses the same setting all the time for Unchained and everything, you know, it's the exact same sound. It's so, I don't know. I like flanger, but I don't use it that much, but I mean, it can sound great for that, you know, like I say, you're either going for the Hear About It Later thing, the Andy Summers thing, or you're going for jet flange kind of, you know, zero flanging. What about the solo to, what's the Eric Johnson song from Via Musicom where the flanger does that through zero thing and it sounds so amazing, and he's using 2 at the same time or something, and he probably spent like a year trying to record it and get it perfect. Anybody watch his interview with Rick Beato? It was really great. Really, really nice interview. Check out Rick Beato's interview with Eric Johnson. Terrific. Okay. Let's see here. Moving down in the chat. Braxall says, how can I keep tabs on your schedule and not miss your stop at the Guitar Sanctuary? You know, it'll be something that for sure a month out or something we'll announce, and probably Sir generally puts the clinics up if I'm doing a clinic there on their Instagram and social media, and I'll have it on mine as well. For sure. So, and, you know, generally speaking, we try and give people, I know there's been, with some of the clinics, there's been a problem with getting, you know, enough lead time and some notice. And it's sometimes people are like, well, I didn't even know you were going to be there. And, you know, or I've got to work and it just got announced and it's only 3 weeks from now and I can't take it off or something. So we're trying to build in more time and stuff like that. So that it's more like we're talking about it now. But the problem is, of course, with this COVID-19 situation and stuff, everybody's kind of on hold. Nobody knows like when it's going to settle down. It's a crazy sort of waiting game we're all playing right now. So it's a little bit odd, but we were talking about scheduling some clinics for May. Yeah, I don't know now. I mean, it's like, to be honest, it just seems like who knows what the hell is going to happen next. You know, it's like with travel and stuff. So, but watch my Facebook and my Instagram and stuff, and for sure I'll post it on there, and I'll try and remember to leave lots and lots of lead time, and post a lot. Okay, what else we got here? Quentin James says you need to do a video on picking dynamics. That'd be cool. That would be cool. Good idea for a video. Yeah. Greg Koch has that harmonic tremolo in his signature amp. Killer tone. That's awesome. It is a great sound, you know. This guitar is in E flat. Hey Pete, pretty sure you've heard a ton of full range cabinets. Is there any that blew your mind? Really was the first one I heard that's blown my mind, which was the Atomic, you know, the wedge one that you can also set up straight, and it's got a concentric driver in the middle. That's, I think, my favorite. I've got this red sound one here too. It's really great as well. You know, there's a lot of good ones out there. There's a lot I haven't tried, but the Atomic sounded, because I'm used to listening to my Atom studio monitors. That was what, you know, I've got my Barefoots now too, but the Atoms is the ones that I really, you know, know them since 2006 or whatever. And when I plugged in the Atomic, I was like, that basically sounds the same as my studio monitor. So any sound that I set up using, say, a modeler or something through my studio monitors and hear it sound good, I'd plug it in there and it would translate and sound almost identical, which is to say, it kind of sounds like a flat studio monitor. And it also, the other thing about the Atomic is it's got this massive sweet spot because of the concentric driver situation and the treble. It's got this, I don't know what you call it, the type of horn that's in it or whatever, but it's got a really, really wide sweet spot. So I found I could move way back from it over to the left, over to the right, and the sound basically stays the same, and it's not beamy and gets all loud when you stand in front of it or something. So it's just, that was the one I was really like, this cabinet's really got something special going on. They're not cheap. I can't tell you exactly how much they are, but it's somewhere around $900 or $1,000, I think, for one of them. But really great, like super good sounding. I told them, I remember when I tried it, I said, you guys need to focus less on the guitar market and just on that this is an awesome sounding powered wedge that sounds so flat that for a sound reinforcement, you know, PA applications or whatever, just getting it out there as a terrific sounding powered monitor, which it seems like the applications are, you know, exponential beyond just the guitar modeling kind of thing with they were focusing on. It's 1,000 watts or something, probably class D, but it's relatively light, compact, loud as hell, sounds really clean and awesome. So try the Atomic. I think it's really, really good. Ransom says, when are you going to Guitar Sanctuary? Yeah, I'm not sure. We had talked about doing some clinics later this year, like some maybe in August, some in May, but now everything's up in the air because of all this, you know, coronavirus stuff. So we'll just wait and see. But we have talked about it, and I think it's going to happen. I will go there and do a clinic eventually. It'll be probably my small rig, huge tones, you know, recording clinic where I track the song in the clinic and talk about getting different tones and stuff like that. Yeah. All right, what else we got here? Saw you at Classic Rock Show, says Jason, in Manchester. Great gig, really enjoyed it. Thanks, man. I remember Manchester. That was fun. Good times. We went on a bowling excursion there on the day off before the gig. Okay. Stealth Parrot says, sucks how life seems to be on hold for a while. It does, but, you know, at least it's not like what our grandparents had to go through in the world wars and stuff, right? You know, they've really had some sacrifice. Keating says, will Corona kill concert venues? Well, I think it's going to, you know, it's definitely going to be a huge hit on the economy for everybody, but I don't think it's going to kill any concert venues. I think people will be back and want to go out more than ever, you know, once all this, you know, dies down. How's the flanger on the Hilux? Can it do the EVH thing? I've never tried to nail it. The only pedal that I've really tried to kind of nail it on was very successful was the Mobius. And I got so close to my EVH flanger on the Mobius that I remember with the tech that I had at the time, I was playing with Melissa Etheridge, and I tried to dial in the exact sound of my EVH flanger. We went back and forth, and he was like, you know, I think that's like close enough. It's pretty like, and I was like, I agree. And it's a hard sound to get that particular flanger out of a digital box. And I was pretty impressed. I really like the Mobius. I think it's great. Pearl Jam canceled world tour, but we'll be back next year. Yeah, everybody is. Everybody's put it all on hold. I saw Kiss like 2 weeks ago. I went to the Kiss Dave Lee Roth show and saw my buddy Al play guitar and stuff. And that got canceled like right after, you know, that was one of the last shows that did, I think. Yeah. Home studios live on YouTube could be the next craze. I got stuck in a loop. Do you have a new song to feature in your clinic? Marty V asked that. Is that so? I did a new one from the clinics that I started doing in 2017 or so. I did the same tune for like about a year, and then I did a new one for when the PT15 came out. So if you saw a clinic that I was doing, let's say the reactive load in PT100, it's a different song that I do now that I track. Might be time to come up with yet another one. Yeah. Let's see. Michael says the polio scare in 1950s was far worse than this, snowflakes. Polio was, yeah, that was no doubt is true. Of course, that's cropped up again recently, hasn't it? Because of vaccinations and stuff. So vaccinate against polio. Just don't even question it. That's don't take medical advice from me, but polio vaccine's a good idea. So, okay. YouTube event should skyrocket because of Corona. You know, man, I got 20 pedals lined up here. I'm not even like exaggerating that I got to make videos for. So I am blessed to have some work in these times. Gotta tell you, it's really, I feel bad. A lot of my friends are staying home right now and they thought they'd be on the road. Big fan, says Ransom, starting again at 47. He's up in the top chat thing at the top there. Thanks, man, for doing that. He says, sticking with it this time. Would love tips or technique on keeping strings quiet while playing. Basically, it's a combination of muting between both hands, you know? So right now I'm hitting the G string, but I'm whacking all the strings, but it's the only one coming through because I'm muting with my thumb around the top of the neck, here, you know, and then, you know, or if say I want to do the, you know, right, Hendrix, it's all muting with the thumb and then your hands, and I'm playing the riff on the fourth string, and then opening up the fifth string only when you want to. So you're really hitting all the strings, and I guess it's a big part of it is all the left hand. And you just kind of naturally develop it. Maybe that's a good one to try and learn, actually, like manic depression. See if you can get the, you know. See if you can get that going. And Hendrix is great because he's always for, you know, learning riffs like that, because he's doing a lot of that stuff where he's, you know, that whole thing. You know, and having it kind of mute around, or how's it? All that stuff, you know, where he's like playing the top strings and the low strings and stuff, and there's always a lot of like double stops and things going on where you only want certain notes to ring out, and you just kind of have to learn the stuff and then try and get it. Yeah, I would say, yeah, I really thought about it, but he's a great one to examine the style of, with his kind of quasi lead me to rhythm guitar playing. It's so rhythmic and yet clear with the little parts jumping out and stuff like that. So see if you can work on something. Let's start with manic depression, and that'd be a great one. Learning how to mute things. Talk to me about pickups. Anything on the radar, says Addicted to Gear. I've just kind of realized as of late that I'm a really big fan of the Sir pickups in general, the single coils. I've been trying some other stuff, but I'm really just bonding with the fact that I really like John's, the sound of his single coil pickups. What else have I tried recently that I liked? Ron Ellis made a set of humbuckers for, Les Paul that my friend James that plays in Classic Rock Show got, and he bought these Ron Ellis pickups and he put it in. They sounded really great, but they really reminded me kind of my Thornbuckers or Gil's pickups. Gil Yaron. What else have I tried recently? No, I don't know. I mean, that's it really. I mean, I guess I'm really a fan of that kind of like 50s, either PAF or 60s patent number or T-top kind of humbuckers. And then as far as single coil goes, as long as they do that Fendery beautiful thing. The Ron Ellis Telly pickups, I'll say, I've talked about him before, but it's a 50-60 set that I've got with a mid-tall neck pickup, I think he calls it. They're so damn clear. I should just show you the guitar. Let me just plug it in. It's probably even just through the mic, however we're doing this right now, I think you'll hear it. But this guitar has, these are the Ron Ellis pickups. I mean, not too many Tellys have that. It's really three-dimensional. Now, the other thing that he does on his pickups is, on this set in particular, is I believe it's Alnico 3 magnets for the top 3 strings and 5s for the low. So it's not all bitey into, that might be overloading the mic actually, but if I just play quiet, his pickups really have this beautiful balance, which I love in my Thornbucker set. Actually, I had the tone rolled just a little back. You can hear how this top string sound a little softer, maybe. So anyway, I got to give Ron a shout out because there's a long waiting list and stuff like that for his pickups. But damn, man, like this neck pickup, it's pretty special sounding, right? Has this clarity. I find a lot of Telly pickups because of the design with the metal cover and all that, they sound so damn dark, and he's gotten around that somehow. So they're really nice. I saw Mateus Asado playing his Sir signature Telly in he just put up a video today or yesterday. You can go listen to it if you want. But his neck pickup sounds really beautiful. And I haven't tried really lately any of John's Telly pickups. So I got to ask John what he's doing in Mateus's Telly and stuff, because his guitar had the similar. I had a Sir T that the neck pickup sounded quite dark to me, which a lot of them do, a lot of T pickups. But this one that's in Mateus's guitar, it sounds so like it's got a lot more clarity to me. So maybe I need to take a listen to, whatever they're doing as well. Anyway, if you want to know what this set is, it's a Ron Ellis 50-60 with a mid-tall. Maybe it's I can't remember his mid-tall bridge or mid-tall neck, but he'll know if you're like, yeah, Pete was talking about your pickups and he loves them that are in his T. He'll remember what these are. They're not he makes like a broadcaster set and, some more early 50s. This is more like late 50s, 60s kind of set. Because that's what this guitar is, a 66. I wanted something that was, kind of era appropriate and era correct, I should say. So. Yeah. Okay, there will be a new baby boom, says 5150. There will be a new baby boom because everyone's stuck at home together. Yeah, probably. That's right. Bars and clubs on the East Coast are shutting down. Out here too, I noticed last night actually it was dead, man. I mean, I drove around for a minute. I wasn't going to go out, but I drove around. I was just looking around to see what was going on when I was on my way home from the studio here. And everything that could be closed was closed, and things that would normally be open even look like they closed early and stuff. So let's see here. Yeah. Toilet paper over guitars, says Neth BT. Anybody want to trade to roll of toilet paper for this telly? No, I'm not at that point yet. Andrew D is up there in the top chat. He says, advice for someone self-taught but hasn't played in years. Need to start again from scratch. Theory lessons and exercises. Too many YouTube videos to get focused. You know what I would probably do, man? I would probably, because yeah, I get that there's like so much, right? Maybe look at something like Paul Davids he's got a beginner to intermediate guitar course, and he's a really great instructor and communicator. Maybe just sign up for one thing, like go look at Paul's lessons and see if maybe they appeal to you. He's a YouTube guy, you know, Paul Davids, big YouTuber. Search for his name, Davids, Paul Davids. I would probably do something like that, where it's like, I know I can log into this one site and I've got the same teacher all the time showing me stuff. I mean, he's a terrific instructor, and I'm sure his course is good. I haven't checked it out myself, but I've checked out plenty of his free lessons that are on YouTube, and they're all great. So maybe that'll help you stay more, focused. And maybe, it's also time to find a local teacher that you can go see once every 2 weeks or something, just to keep you on track. And somebody, because there's still no substitute kind of for sitting down with somebody. I think it can be a good thing, So, Jim Lund, this is interesting. He threw some Celestion F12 to X200 in a 212, and they are great. That's a modeling speaker. They're like Celestion made a speaker that is like looks like a guitar driver, but it's actually a concentric driver with a high-end driver in the middle. It's a modeling. It's meant to, reproduce full range sounds. And so for those of you out there that are modelers and you want to hear it through a guitar cabinet, Brittany Bowman, actually, my girlfriend, she did a video for the speaker. And I helped her make it a little bit, where she's just playing a HX Stomp through a Matrix power amp into a little open back 112 that we threw the speaker in, and she plays some simple riffs through it, and you can hear what it sounds like if you're interested. I really like it. I thought, well, similar to my impression, like I was saying, of this plug-in and stuff. When you plug into something, you just hit a chord or two, and you go, "Oh, that sounds familiar. That sounds good. That sounds like something I could use." I always find that any pedal or amp or whatever it is, if I got to spend a lot of time dialing it in and trying to get it, and it's like generally, right, if a piece of gear is pretty cool within the first 10 seconds. And the F12 X200, crazy as the name is, speaker from Celestion, I felt that way about. Just put it in. Basically, they were like, yeah, just throw it in any 112 you have and it'll work. As opposed to, you buy a modeler full range cabinet and it's got it, all this, they're $1,000 and, it's a specific cabinet and all this and these different, it's like this speaker is like, just throw it in a cabinet, plug your modeler into it. That's kind of the vibe. And what they actually made it to do is feel like a guitar speaker. Pretty effective, I would say they were with the design. In other words, that it was described to me once, I guess by them, that, guitar speakers are such a different design than a PA or full range speaker. Generally speaking, with PA and full range, the speakers are very stiff, no distortion, lots of power handling, thick paper, like all that kind of stuff. Totally different than the guitar speakers that we like, that are like greenbacks, that are 25-watt power handling and small magnet and thin paper, and they've got a different feel and response to them. So they tried to make a full range speaker that feels and responds still like a guitar speaker with this F12 X200 speaker. And I would agree. I think it's really, really good product, actually. Did I see the Gibson video of John Shanks guitars? No, and I just saw John Shanks yesterday. And then after I saw him, I saw that Gibson had done a video, so I got to watch that. But I'm sure it's out of this world because Shanks is a maniac and has more gear than anybody that I know. That's for sure. He's a guitar and amp collector, just like through the roof. How much stuff he has. So, anyways. Okay. What else we got here? What else have we got here? Moving down. I've got tickets for Roger Waters at the Garden in August. That would be a hard cancel, says Oscillation Overdrive. Yeah, I'd love to see Roger Waters. I've only seen him once, actually, and it was awesome. Number of years ago now. But August is still a ways off. Maybe things will clear up by then. Who knows? I think it's all depends on what we do now. That seems to be the arc, right? Like always look at science and all that. Whatever's going on in China and South Korea, they were really successful, and it seems to be on the things are getting better over there and kind of a little more normal. So a little bit of sacrifice now. All we got to do is stay home and practice guitar. Let's see, Pete, are you with the? I lost my place in the chat here. Somebody was asking about Cort guitars and what I think of them. They seem to be a pretty good, like the Cort that I remember them from the '80s, and they were like this budget brand, and I guess they were made in probably Korea then and stuff. But they make a lot of they're like an OEM, I think, manufacturer for a lot of different brands. So that seems to be a pretty good company, is what I'm getting at. Cort in general, for a kind of like a less expensive, import kind of thing. I think they probably pretty quality guitars. Dragony Gidorni. Hi, man. He says, are you with the Guillain Canal syndrome and elbow owner nerve compression? Your nerve deltoid hurts. I think you're just asking me about my problem I was having. It's getting a little better this week. Like my hand, I was having some issues that I was feeling pretty good right now. Like kind of, I think I was just pulled something, strained something, inflamed something, and I'm not having as many issues as of this week. Feels good, but less of that sort of nerve feelings in my fingers and stuff. So whatever's going on, like I say, it's never gotten really bad for me. It flares up sometimes, and I feel a little more. Generally, it goes away if I warm up. I have to be careful, but right now my hand feels great. Rico USA says, I own 11 excellent 500 series mic pre's. He's up in the top chat. Thanks for doing that. And he's struggling to decide whether to continue buying 500 series compressors and EQs when I already own all the UAD plugins. Would you buy 500 EQ compressor or use plugins? Honestly, you have 11. I think you can quit with that and just, you've got far more than I do. I've got 400 or 500 series modules here, and I use one of them mainly. It depends what you're doing, I guess, but it's like you've got so many, I don't know. I mean, I think mainly the plugins are so damn good these days. The most important thing, a lot of people are audio guys and they want all the analog stuff and they want to work with the, and I'm more interested in writing music. So I'm not as much a guy that's just tuned into I love good sound and I love the gear and all that, but to a point, I've got my APIs and my BAE knee styles here. And then I got my Meris mic pre up in the rack there, and I got a couple outboard compressors, and I'm kind of done. It's like I just, beyond that, it's like now I have the stuff I just want to kind of, write songs and make tracks and stuff. So I don't really think you need more of that stuff. I might put more money into mics if I was you. Maybe you've already got a ton of stuff, but rather than, a couple microphones that, I got a little ground buzz through that amp right now. Maybe not that much, not compared to that. I'm remembering the amp buzzes a little bit by itself anyway. But anyways, sorry, I digress. Make sure you got a good selection of, a pair of small diaphragm condensers that are really nice. A couple large diaphragm condenser vocal mics, a ribbon mic, obviously a good 57. If you got all that stuff already, great. If you don't, maybe you want to, invest in that, because that can be a huge effect, on your sound and what you're doing. You've probably got all that stuff. It sounds like if you got 11 great 500 series pre's. But more than I do. Well, I'll tell you, one of the coolest things I got in my 500 series rack is the Meris Mercury 7, I think it's called, and Mercury Reverb. And I just have one. I kind of would like another one so that I can do stereo with it. They sound so good. They were modeled after influenced by the Blade Runner, the kind of the Blade Runner soundtrack, and those, you know, intense long reverb washes and stuff like that. And it really, so for like ambient guitar and stuff, they're unbelievable. And you can get them in a 500 series. I know they make it in a guitar pedal now, which is probably more appropriate for 99% of the people out there, but I have one of the 500 series. Corey Conglilio, I hope I'm saying his name right. I know this dude, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name right. He's a great guy. On TrueFire is also a great online teacher for beginners, says Toby Ellis. I agree. Great guitar player. You know, check something like that, like a TrueFire course where you go every day. Somebody was asking about, you know, getting going, playing guitar again, how to, you know, take lessons without getting confused by so much YouTube stuff coming at you and different players. I think maybe Paul Davids, Corey on TrueFire, you know, pick one teacher and take their course or something and work it till the end. Yeah. Alan says that I can vouch firsthand that Paul David's intermediary course is great. Maybe I should do it. I would love to, you know, sit down. That sounds good to me. You know, I want to do Tim Pierce's studio guitar course too, because he's got his, you know, tons of lessons online, but that's a little bit more like intermediate to advanced, I think, kind of stuff. And the fellow was asking about a beginner to intermediate. So yeah, Paul Davids, I would say check him out for sure. Yeah. Let's see here. Joe Harvey 84 says, I could use help with chords. I'm in drop C. Power chords and bar chords get overused. I need help. Maybe change the tuning, you know, maybe don't do the drop C thing. Just go to you know, down a whole step D standard, or, you know, okay. So like one thing you could do is change up your, I mean, I find that like with the guitar in standard tuning, just by changing one string. So let's go to drop D. Right? Of course, you gravitate towards that stuff. Okay, so you of course gravitate towards, you know, okay, let's take the A string down to G. Now you're going to end up with a whole bunch of different, I'm just going to like play around. Soundgarden, right? Super Unknown. I think that's how. I think that's a riff. I forget it. I used to play it. I can't remember now. But I think that's it. Something. So right away you can come up with a riff like that, where you've. There's a cool one. I don't know. You know. So not a good. As soon as you knock a string out, it's like the sky's the limit, though. You just find. How about that? Like a. Now where? So that to me, I'll sit here and write in front of you guys.
the song, right? So all I did was I put the string, so dropped the 2 low strings down a whole step, and then I dropped the high string down to D. So what have I got? I got D, G, D, G, B. I guess I'm in D, G, D, G, B, D. That's what I got going. And that's a nice, all of a sudden you can write stuff that you wouldn't normally.
So yeah, just switch up your tuning. Knock one string down, knock another string down, and see what happens, And you notice when I found the high E string, I was like, okay, that note doesn't quite work, but I can hear that if I dropped it a whole step, it might ring out with whatever I'm playing nicely. So you just drop another one, and then you'll end up with some tuning that... something else. So that's how I write anyway. I just listen for what sounds good and move my fingers around. What else we got here? Move down to the bottom here. Dude, that guitar sounds so good, says Arthur. It's really great, isn't it? Just this, it's a little Princeton amp, and then this guitar is very pure sounding. Great telly. Nice telly. Let's see here. Ben Bowman said, how do you document when you change the tuning noodle around and find something that works? This is it. Weeks later, you find you won't remember. This is how you do it. Face ID. You use the recorder app on the phone. Why does that not? It's so goddamn bright. It won't show the... Oh, there you go. See the contrast? See all that stuff in there? That's all recorded ideas on my phone recorder. So if I was going to, I wanted to document it, I'd turn on the recorder. Okay, this is with the tuning D, G, D, G, B, D, and it's going to go something like this. And now, quarter. Okay, this is with the tuning D, G, D, G, B, D, and it's going to go something like this. This thing, man, is the ultimate. And if you look in my phone, I show this in my clinic, but it's hard to see the contrast, but there's hundreds of ideas like that in my phone. And that's how I document things and it can be singing the riff. You might come up with a riff in the car. Just sing it into the phone, while you're driving. Don't do that while you're driving. You might get in an accident. But when you're walking down the street, you've got this thing that you can document. Maybe you think of, a cool drum groove or something. You can kind of sing it into the phone, Yeah. So... play Louie Louie, says Richard. I'm not in the right tuning. Oh yeah, we gotta go now. Okay, there. I'm into 2000s metalcore, some modern stuff, says Joe. Did you have another question? No, Joe, I must have missed it. Jason says, "What, Pete? I have to be boring, but what's a good structured practice routine? I'm bored of mine." Dude, I don't have one. Honestly, I'm the worst with that. But I would suggest, once again, I'm kind of on about these courses. Like maybe the idea, I've been meaning for a long time to sign up for Tim Pierce's studio guitar course. There's the Paul Davids one. There's like, maybe the thing is these guys are creating these great courses, and maybe it's like, yeah, I want to learn something new. I don't know what to do. There's so much out there. Go to one of these people who put in all this time and effort into these great things. Yeah, just go check out one of those, and I'm sure that it'll be a thing where you just get into that and you get used to logging in every day and spending an hour with, one of those lessons, and hopefully get, a lot out of it. Yeah. Doc IC says, Pete, Apple has music memos, the music version of the voice memos app. I didn't know that. Free and easy, says Doc IC. How is it different than just the standard voice memos one? Is it like that you can make notes or something like that? Music notes for the memos? I don't know. I should check it out. That's pretty cool, though. I learn things from you guys every week. I didn't know that. I just use the voice recorder because it works and sounds great. But yeah. Preston Smith says, my memory is bad enough. I would forget to click record for the riff I'm bound to forget. Come on, Preston, you can do it. They've given you everything you need. You've got a studio in your hand. It's even got, I mean, you can get full on GarageBand for iPhone now. So it's like you can multi-track if you want to, you know. Let's see here. Welcome to all joining late, says Ben Coombs. It's great to have you guys here. There's 452 people online. What's up? Let's see. We're self-quarantining. We are social distancing. And Aquila says that he's really liking these new Ernie Ball Primo Slinkies, 9.5 to 44. That's what I'm using. Played 10s for a year, but they're too heavy and 9s are just too light. These new Slinkies are primo, sweet spot. I agree. They're great. Perfect for me. I'm very happy with them. Been very happy since I switched, and I'm really glad they came out with them. So if you guys haven't tried them, 9.5 to 44, it's a great gauge. You won't find the tone suffers at all, I don't think, compared to 10s. And the feel's terrific. It's just a little bit easier on the hands than 10s, which for me have gotten to be a little bit, you know, as I get older, I don't know what's going on with my hands, but you know, they do flare up sometimes. They're pretty good this week, but you know, and I find the lighter strings help. Yeah. The Sonic Youth version, says US Blues. I guess that you're talking about my Louie version. Yeah. Let's see here. Jumping Jack Flash was recorded by Keith Richards, which he forgot next day until playback. That's cool, says Keating. Yeah, I'm sure, you know. Do you ever mess with exotic scales? Only a little bit, but I don't really know what I'm playing. I sort of just play around with, you know, like I did a video on back in a regular tuning. So I did a video once on that scale that I use to play, you know, when I'm soloing or whatever, the most of the time, if it's within a rock context. And what I ended up coming up with was it's almost chromatic, because you know when you're, you know, like when you're, all the notes are in there. It just depends where you land, you know. One of those like Stevie Ray Vaughan's. You know, you're playing the minor 9 there first, flat 9. So it's like, you know, when I play, I play all those notes, and then it just depends, you know. One of the ones that I loved is that Josh from Queens of the Stone Age. He was on that Guitar Moves show, you know, and he showed this one scale that he uses, and I use that a lot, which is the flat 7, the root, major 3rd, flat 5. Right? And the 5th, and then the natural 6th. And I find I can throw that in just about anywhere, and it sounds kind of exotic and cool, you know? So, anyways. What do we got here? What upgrade pickups from my Mexican telly for rockin' stuff, says Albert. I mean, maybe you want to try, if you want to play like hard rock with that guitar or something, maybe you want to try something like a, like a high output little 59 or something in the bridge. Could be cool. I saw Andy Wood is doing a shootout of, high gain pickups for the for a telly, and he's got a video where he's trying like a little 59 and different pickups. Maybe something like that is what you want. I tend to think like, a good hot telly broadcaster style pickup or something works great with distortion or for rock stuff anyway, because they're pretty hot. I mean, they're almost like 8K or something. They're pretty high output. So 5 of your favorite bands and artists, says My Secret Machine. I'm going to go with the Beatles, The Who, Van Halen, and AC/DC, and Pink Floyd. How about that? The huge. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to move down to the bottom of the chat here. We got 441 people online. Not too bad, folks. Jeff Beck is actually a lot better now than ever, says Paul Ewing. It's just talent. He must still be putting the work. It is just talent. He must still be putting the work in. The neat thing about Jeff Beck, I think, is that he never burned out or did too many drugs or he kind of go away and then come back. And he seems to have varied interests. He likes his cars and stuff. And he just has a nice arc to his career, doesn't he? Where it was like, he was never in bands where he was in long drawn out fights with people, and he was never you know what I mean? Like, he has a nice, like, put out an album, go away for a while, put out an album, go away for a while. It seems to tour. It's like a nice, steady, slow burn kind of thing to his whole career. And maybe it's something about him being a solo artist. When you see folks like Joe Satriani or Eric Johnson or Jeff Beck, these guys that have had long careers. Jeff's been around longer, but not really that much when you think about it. It's like both those other examples I used, those guys were, by 1980, they were hitting the scene. And, Jeff showed up, of course, in 64, 65, 66, something like that. But 15 years later, we had Satriani and Eric Johnson. They're all solo artists, and they've all had, at this point, another 30 years beyond that of career. And maybe it's something to do with they work for themselves. They put out records when they feel like it. I don't know. It's interesting. And they kind of keep, doing their thing and doing well. Let's see here. What else we got here? Let's see. Apparently the Music Memos app, says Dylan, detects tempo and chords. Not sure how good, but that's cool. That's neat. I don't know that it's really necessary for what I do, because I generally just am playing. I mean, I shouldn't poo-poo it before I see it, but I don't know if I need that. Like, I like using it just as a voice recorder and then listening back to it and going, oh yeah, that's the idea. And then the next day when I come back to a riff, there it is, and I can expand on it. Somebody asks who makes the best tubes, says Aquila. Nobody, he said. All variable quality. Buy tubes from a seller that tests and grades them. I would say that's pretty good advice. Tubes these days are, you basically got Chinese tubes made in a couple different factories. Tubes from previously known. Oh, not where are it's Czech Republic, right? The JJs, that's where they're made, right? There's that factory, and then there's the Mike Matthews reflector plant, Russian made stuff. That's about it, right? As far as everything's some variation of coming out of probably 4 or 5 different factories. And yeah, they sometimes will go up and down in quality. I know recently the EL34s, JJ for many years was probably the most consistent, and they were good and everything. And then recently they just like all crap out. I know a couple different manufacturers have had to switch because they've had problems with the JJs consistently. And you never know, next year they could be fine. So it's like, why does that happen? But it's all quality control and stuff, I guess. Generally speaking, I would say I have to say that the electro harmonics, like at least the 34s and their power tubes in general, I haven't heard a lot of people bitch about them. Like the 34s are now what we're using in the PT100. I know Friedman also switched to them. He quite likes them. Sir quite likes them. I like the way they sound. I've always kind of liked the Electro Harmonic CL34 since the early 2000s. Seems to be pretty good, solid tube. So I would recommend those. As I don't remember a time where there was ever like, oh, Electro Harmonics 34s are always failing, or anybody talking about that. It's like they actually sound quite good. They're a good sort of budget substitute for the old Siemens or something is kind of what they look like or resemble. I don't know if that's what there was a copy of, but Pete, what are your top 3 Clapton or blues solos to learn? Says Dave. Geez, I don't know, man. I mean, Crossroads is a cool, epic, if you can get that down. I don't know about like, probably that whole, get the Beano album, and listen to stuff on there and just see what floats your boat. If that's kind of the style that you want to, that's kind of where it all began, where people started really talking about him as being I would say just pick stuff off that record probably. Let's see. Let's see here. What else we got here? Who else we got here? Preston Smith is giving props to Rick Beato. I would agree. He's had some awesome interviews recently. He gets a lot of the, Robin Ford, Eric Johnson, Peter Frampton. Got to give props to Rick. He really obviously puts in the work to get the good interviews and stuff like that, and he's got the connections and he's a very, very capable interviewer, because I've been interviewed by him, and he really did his homework and stuff, and I was really impressed with. I was like, wow, you're a deep dude. Like, the great thing about Rick Beato is he's not like a jazz snob or something, right? He appreciates punk rock as much as he does, sophisticated jazz or something, and he's got a real handle on it all. And it's like you get a sense that he really loves music in general, and he appreciates it all without being sort of discriminating, So he's genuinely excited to talk to, a rock guitar player or somebody that's into metal as he is to Robin Ford. So it's pretty nice. Yeah. So Marty V says that Netherlands is going full lockdown, no more live music at least until April. This is going to be boring and costly. Well, we should all practice and write music, Better to be bored than be sick. I don't want to get sick, man. I friggin' hate getting sick. And when it comes down to this whole thing, I've been thinking about, I hate respiratory stuff. I don't know about you guys, but like, I got sick once in the 90s where I had this cough that would not go away. And like, this is like probably like 1993 or 4 or something, I remember. And I coughed for 6 months, man, to the point where it was like pleurisy or something, where I felt like I was like, my chest really hurt from the amount I was coughing, like the muscles and stuff. And I never really recovered after that fully, I don't think. And I think I did some damage from coughing so much, and now when I get a respiratory, like when I get bronchitis or something, it's bad and it lasts and it always lingers. And I cough for 3-4 weeks. I cough for a few weeks. I'm still like, I was sick on the bus when I was over in England, and I still feel like, like I need to clear my throat. And, you know what I mean? And like, I'm not really coughing anymore, but like, it's sensitive, man. This whole upper respiratory part of me, ever since that time in the 90s, I swear it was that one time where I felt like I did damage to myself. And so when I think about it, you think about this whole like coronavirus thing. It's like, do I want to get like, because I think it can be pretty severe if it, obviously starts causing pneumonia and stuff in certain people. I'm like, am I one of those dudes that's going to be, I'm not being like overly dramatic when I say I don't like getting a cold because it lingers forever. So anyway, just saying, I know it's going to be boring, but I'd rather stay home and watch Netflix than get sick. Bent Russum's up in the top chat up there. He says, do you know who built Tim Pierce's guitar cabinet vault in his garage? I'm thinking of building one on my 2-week vacation. I don't, but I basically know what he did. Any good contractor, I would think, would be able to do something similar. Tim wishes he built his bigger. I can tell you that. And it's pretty big, but it's only maybe 5 feet high or something. He thinks he should have gone even higher. The more volume you can, space that you can build into it, the better. But essentially, if you want to build one, there's the whole floating floor, like you do a false floor then with like sand underneath or that kind of thing, floating floor thing. If you want to really do it right, you can do the double wall thing where it's essentially 2 2x4 walls with some air in the middle. So, an air gap in the middle with 2 2x4, and on either side drywall, and in the middle, a layer of drywall on either side, a layer of rock wool or whatever in the middle of you need to do rock wool. No, the rock wool's in the 2x4s, right? So drywall, rock wool, drywall, air in the middle, and then another drywall, rock wool, drywall. And if you do that, and then the door to the thing is so important as far as the seal that goes all the way around. And if you look at my door, my double door, which it ain't perfect, but it's pretty damn good. I've got all the way around both doors this stuff, which I got from a studio guy in the valley. So it's real thick, what do you call this stuff? The rubber stuff that's like neoprene, and it sticks all the way around, and it seals all the way around the bottom. So when the door closes, it's tight to that neoprene, and then it's the same thing on the other side here, all the way around the neoprene, both sides. And that I got to pull it tight to get it closed. Same thing here. And you want to do that. I got to push shut to get it. You want that neoprene seal all the way around with the 2 doors. Now I've only got this wall over here is a 2x6 wall. It's not even a double wall, but I've got 3 layers of drywall on one side and 2 layers of drywall on the other side with green glue in the middle of all of them. And then the rock wool stuff in the middle or whatever it is. And it's pretty damn good. But you're only as good as your worst seal. If there's any, so the door is really going to be the weak link, and you got that neoprene stuff. If you can find it, it goes all the way around. I got it from I remember the guy's name. I think it's Stephen Klein's Control Room or something. Stephen, write that down. Stephen Klein. If you look in Google, I believe that was the guy's name. Stephen Klein's Control Room. I think he was closing though when I got it. He was selling stuff out of his garage, and he sold, stuff for studios, like, gobos and isolation and stuff like that. And that's where I found that neoprene stuff. Maybe you can get some somewhere else. But anyways, the advice would be 2 2x4 walls, same thing on the roof, and build it real as big as you can, as high as you can, with as much space on the inside as you can. And do the door right with the neoprene seals on either side, with 2 doors. And that'll keep it pretty airtight. And then you're going to have to treat the inside, depending on how big you can make it, you can give it some life if you want, but if you want it to just be dead and put the cabinet in there, you can go for probably, treat the walls and stuff on the inside with rock wool or whatever to kind of soak up the sound. I think a hard floor is a good idea in them, just personally, rather than carpet or super dead floor. Like, so you can do a, laminate, hardwood, or whatever on the inside of there. And that tends to give it a little bit of life, that gets into the, the early reflection from the mic isn't quite just dead chamber sound. It's got just a little bit of life. So I would do the soft walls and stuff, but with the, because you can always put a rug down if you want to make it dead. But if you go with a carpet floor or something, it's super dead. Most studios and, ISO and stuff, it's generally going to be a floor. Not like carpet or something on the floor. Have you tried modern Supro amps? What are your thoughts? That's David Kotai from Pigtronics. Pretty cool stuff that he's doing. I think they're cool. That Blues King one he's got for $5.99 is pretty neat. I've only heard it at NAMM, but it's pretty nice, I would say. It's called a Blues King. It's made overseas, but it's like a little tube amp that pretty neat little combo. Jeff says he's interested in buying us a PT15. I hope you do. I think you will like it. It's awesome. I love mine. I do. Thanks for the suggestion, says Ben. You bet, man. What else we got here, guys? Hey, Pete, how's your studio ventilated? So I've got one AC up there in the ceiling in the back, and that's it. And it ain't perfect. But basically, it runs to the front of this building. And it's connected to all the other AC, but it's like it's stuffed with the tube that go, or whatever the what's it called? I'm an idiot when it comes to this stuff, but it's stuffed full of foam, the pipe going all the way through, so it deadens a lot of the sound, and there's really ain't a lot of airflow coming through there. But to be honest, in here, it stays pretty cool in the summer. It's a pretty big room. It stays pretty cool in the summer, and in the winter, I just use a little space heater here. And so I rarely am using the heat or AC from the building. Is what it comes down to, and I don't really have problems with it. It's been pretty comfortable. I've been here now through the winters and the summer and stuff, and it's cool. Pete, will you demo the TC Plethora X5? I would like to. I've been meaning to contact them because they told me about it a long time ago, and I said I would love to. To do it, but then I haven't heard from them, or it was lost touch with them. So I would like to do it soon. Yeah. Ben Coombs has started to do a little bit of moderation because there's somebody that insists on saying that they're not a man, they're a woman in the chat. Okay, whatever. Talk about guitar. We don't care. What else we got here? Let's see. How long in front of the cabinet would you make the vault for air movement, says Ben. Tim's suggestion is always as big as you can possibly make it. So go, if all you got is a foot, then that's what you're going to have to do. But if you can make it as big as the length of your garage, go for it. That's the suggestion, as big as you can. And I would say that's anytime you seal something up tight, it gets weird if it's not big. If it's made really right, maybe with the right angles and stuff, you consult like a studio builder on how to build a small isolation cabinet, okay, maybe then. But for the most part, what I've found is that if you seal something, like I made it's on YouTube, there's a video of me making an ISO box thing for a guitar cabinet. And after I made that thing, I didn't like the way it sounded. It sounded boxy. It sounded like I put my cabinet in a box that sounded like this. So you're going to get more of that effect the smaller and smaller you go, and the bigger you can go and make it more like a real room, there's going to be room for the sound to dissipate, and whatever comes back into the mics isn't going to be so affected by the small volume of the room. So as much space as you can, and you might consider doing something like building it with an angle on the wall in the front so that it's, maybe this, if you could make it so this wall was longer and then this one's angled out a little bit or something, so it's not a perfect square, that would probably be helpful. I'm not a studio builder, but Lauren's here actually in the L. You might, yeah, we got a good resource here. If he's still here, L Scott Music, he can maybe offer some advice on that because he knows about these things. And he's a resource for that sort of thing. He might be able to answer some of your questions better than me. Hey Pete, you may have covered this already. What size frets does your old Telly have? I think they're 6105. This guitar was or maybe smaller, maybe 6150 or something. This guitar was refretted when I bought it, and I actually want John to take a look at it because it'll fret out if I go a minor third on the high E string, right? So it's got some issues. It's mainly a rhythm guitar for me at this point, because the action ain't that low, and it's fretting out pretty bad on the. I can maybe get a whole step, and it doesn't sound that great on the high E string. So, and that's all the way up till the 21st fret. It starts fretting out, so, and that's just, it's a vintage, it's not been, the fingerboard is quite thin,
actually, so I don't even think I could take radius out of it if I wanted to, because there ain't any wood left there for that. So I think it's just a matter of getting the frets. You know, maybe somebody like John could help me with it, with the, you know, the radius into the frets or something to make it bend a little bit better. Anyways, let's see. Just got to tell somebody here that I'm doing my live stream. They're giving me a ring. Okay, what else we got here? It's 1:23. Probably going to go pretty soon, guys. Been going a couple hours, so we'll go another 10 minutes or so, and then I'm going to split. Have you tried the Ernie Ball Prodigy picks? A little bit. Are those the that's Addicted to Gear? Are those the ones that Petrucci uses? I think they're pretty nice. As far as I know, those are the ones, and they are pretty cool. Just finishing live stream. Okay. Pretty cool. And I like to mess around with different picks sometimes. Like I've got this little box right here that's got a bunch in there, and Ernie Ball sent me a bunch recently. Oh yeah, here's a Prodigy pick right here. Look at that. It's a super tiny little Jazz 3 style though. It says Prodigy on it. Wow. I got faster. I feel like a prodigy all of a sudden. I don't know. This would be too small for me to play rhythm guitar with, you know, but they're nice for solos and stuff. You know the pick I like that's a nice size for if you like that kind of like, you know, real pointy, shreddy kind of pick are these, the Paul Gilbert. I'm a Dunlop guy, but I keep a few of these around for sometimes. So the Paul Gilbert Ibanez pick, and it's got a real pointy tip. Got his funny little thing on it there. And they work really good. A real positive kind of, you know, like connection with the string, and they've got a real attack to them, but it's big enough to play rhythm guitar with. These are the picks I thought you were talking about right here. This is see this is like the Petrucci signature. This is what I thought you meant. Maybe this is something else, but these are quite nice too, in a similar way to the Gilbert one. I find that quite good for the shreddy stuff. It's actually, I could use this pick. I mean, it's quite hard. It's probably a 1.5 millimeter or something. And it's kind of nice how it's the kind of the edge is beveled. I like that because it sort of slides around the string in a nice way. So all that said, my pick is still that I generally use, just one of these, which is an Ultex 73 with my name on it, just like Ingve. Use the Ultex 73. I just got my name on it. We remember the video from the 80s, Ingve. Kind of, it's like a medium, like a medium heavy pick almost. But there's some flex to it, and I like it because I just got used to it for rhythm guitar as well as for acoustic guitar. You can use this pick, and it's not too heavy, you know. And I don't know, I just got used to the feel of it. It's not the fastest pick in the world. They feel a little draggy compared to like when I play the Petrucci pick or whatever. It's very fast and kind of slides off the string really quick. You know, there's a little bit more friction or something with the Ultex, but I don't know, it just works for me, and that's the main thing I've used. Aquila says he's got a used Laney Iommi treble booster. Not as much high pass as I expected, but it does really sing. I would love to try one of those. I know they're making, was that newer pedal that they've come out with? Like I'd love to get one of those. Maybe make a video for one or something like that. That would be cool. Yeah, Keating says, lived by my 73 Ultexes. I agree. It's just a good, you know, they last a long time, and it's a good sounding pick. It works for all kinds of stuff, and I got used to them, and I like it. Stefan says, why no new guitar pedals from Sir for a few years now?
You'd have to ask them, to be honest. It's not like I'll tell you this, they're working on stuff and they're just very picky about things, about making. A lot of companies I'll say this, a lot of companies put out pedals and they just put out pedals to put out pedals. Do you know what I mean? It's not like there's a ton of thought put into, and maybe there wasn't even back in the day in the 60s or the 70s. That's not really the way that they operate. I think that, and I think to a degree you got to balance it because you got to get new product out there. But I think it's smart in a way because in an environment where something better stand out, because there's 4 million. I did an Overdrive video this week. I think it's a great pedal, but there was one guy that said it's going to really have to blow our minds these days to be anything different or whatever. There's a shred of truth in that, where it's like I thought he was being kind of like, well, nothing new, just kind of poo-pooing it. But there's a shred of truth in what he's saying, which is that in order to stand out in the market these days, you better have an amazing, amazing pedal, and that just requires R&D time. It just takes a while, right? So I think that's the thing with Cirque, because it's not, like I say, it's not like they're not working on stuff. I mean, amps, everything they do, from an R&D side, they're always striving to make it better. What if we did this? What if we did that? If we could put this in, it'd be amazing. And and then you got the kind of the salespeople and the marketing side that were like, we got to get this out. We got to get this out. And that's always probably the fight with a lot of companies, but they don't really compromise. And so you'll see stuff from them, of course, it just takes time. And when you do, it'll be amazing, So that's my answer. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, I think less is more almost these days with stuff. There's so much new stuff coming out all the time that it's almost like we're like, some new pedal could come out. It could be the best thing since sliced bread. And we might be like, so what, whatever, just another pedal. That's how a lot of people kind of respond to things these days. And it's like, that's unfortunate, so maybe less or more is a good, less is more is a good motto going forward with some of these products. I would like to see companies put out less stuff and have everything they put out be amazing rather than just quantity, because we're used to new exciting things coming out every January at NAMM, whatever. It's like we barely had time to learn the old things, to get the most out of the things that we got back in 2017 or whatever, Does that make sense? I hope so. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking shit. Joe Wright Music is in the top chat there, and he says, have a coffee on me. Thanks for the chat. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, let's see here. Pete, you're picky about your picks, says Steve. 73 is lighter than I expected, says BC Rich. Yeah, I don't know. I just got used to them. It was mainly, to be honest, because of the acoustic thing. I didn't want to switch picks during a gig because playing with Chris Cornell's when I started using them, and I was playing acoustic on, I don't know, like songs like Seasons and Sun Shower and stuff. I would play acoustic, and it was like I didn't want to use a different pick, so it was like maybe I can find one pick that works for everything, and it was like the Ultex seemed to be great, and ever since then I just used them without even thinking about it. The new Andy James pick, says Stephen Douglas, is my favorite, similar to Petrucci's. I might like that Petrucci pick for myself for everything if it was a little thinner. It's quite thick, I find, but maybe they could make it in I should ask the Dunlop guys, because they're I know them quite well. Maybe they could make me a pick. What's your favorite Sir outside of your signature? That's a good question. Geez, I mean, they're custom, so it's like there's so many different ones, Jason says the Lake Placid Blue before you go. Okay, we'll get that guitar. It is a really nice look, this guitar, with the roasted rosewood board, right? I think it's cool. I always forget this guitar has a side jack on it. It's like a standard strap jack. What's this pick? A weird pick. Like a Tortex or something. Somebody else is up there in the live chat. Oh, no, that was Joe. Thanks, Joe. Thanks again for doing that. The top chat, live chat, whatever the hell it's called. I've never figured it out. Love that color, says Doc Eye. Yeah, it's always a good, and it looks cool with this board too. I think the roasted kind of dark thing worked out good. So show. What else we got here? Dragoonie is being weird, so I'm going to leave it up to Ben Coombs to decide what to do. Let's be chill. Let's talk about guitar. I got to go in a minute here. Be cool. Have you tried any of the Neural DSP plugins? Just this week, I sent them an email. They contacted me a while ago. They got some cool stuff, and I want to check out some of their stuff. So the answer is no, but I did put in an inquiry this week because I want to try some of what they got going on. Yeah. Aquila says some digital gear does not seem to hold value for some reason. Maybe it's because it's always superseded. It's the computer thing, people always perceive the next one as being better and all that. So it's hard, whereas with a guitar or with they hold their value because it is what it is. And it's not like you make a better, something that's people always perceive the computer thing as faster, better, newer, latest chip, and that's been ingrained in us through iPhone to iPhone 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. Oh, the new one with the higher number must be better, or Max, it's like now 3 times as fast as the one you just bought it 6 months ago. Right. So, anyways, what else we got here? Classic Rock Show was great. Any chance for next year? Definitely. As long as everything goes okay with whatever's going on right now in the world, if it gets better, and it'll definitely be hitting the road again. Of course, it'll get better, but just take time. Pete, have you ever tried an EBO? Yeah, sure. Use them on recordings and stuff quite a bit. I have one here somewhere in my drawer over there. Yeah. Let's see. Do you like roasted necks better than unroasted? What differences do you notice? Says Dylan. The main thing I notice is stability. It definitely makes a difference in the stability. You have to do less truss rod adjustments for sure. With every roasted neck I've ever had, they seem to just stay stable. And I think that's just a result of it stabilizes the wood and stuff when you get all the moisture out. And definitely like Sir, and that's a proven thing. Sir won't even do a bird's eye neck not roasted because they're unstable and they move. And I had a bird's eye Strat. If you look way back, you might find some photos of me with it or something, but it was a surf green, custom shop Strat. And that neck was like, and I sold the guitar because of that. I got it plucked and then it played okay. But when you sighted down it always looked weird. It had a twist in one side. And that's just the nature of bird's eye. But as soon as you roast them, this is bird's eye. It's kind of a lighter bird's eye, but, you roast it and they stay stable. This guitar I haven't touched since I got it back from them with this neck on it. And I pick it up and it's perfect. I can tell the neck hasn't moved. So it's cool. My main question was maple fingerboard or rosewood, says Jason. Overall, I mean, I'm a rosewood fan. If I had to pick one, but Todd's saying he didn't know that about roasted necks. Yeah, it's stability is really the thing. Now tone, maybe, but the stability is really the thing that I like. Yeah. So what was the other question? Oh, maple or rosewood. I prefer rosewood, but I like having some guitars around with maple too. It's cool to have. And ebony. I like to have, my ebony custom. It's cool to have. Sometimes it's that snappier kind of attack that you get. Yeah. Surfer by says pedals are hitting their max. Market is saturated. It's nice to have variety and options, but many boutique makers will be fading out. Everything goes in cycles. Yeah, I think you've got to really do something that stands out, you know. Zach says, we miss you in Alberta, Canada. Thanks, man. I miss it up there too. Sometimes I do. Miss Canada in general. He's wondering if I've ever tried a Chapman Pro Series guitar. I've only picked up the Chapman guitars a little bit. Like in the UK, I actually picked up a couple while I was over there. And at NAMM, you see them a lot in the UK, though. But what's that say? Way more expensive due to how few pieces you get from that process. Yeah, Yang Nad's talking with somebody else and didn't understand. Anyway, sorry. I'm down to the bottom of the chat. I'm going to answer a couple more things and I'm going to split. Pete, on a Sunday afternoon, some normalcy is much needed at this time. Thanks, man. Hey, it's nice to have all you guys here. You know, we're doing our self-quarantine and our social distancing by being together via the internet. You're a good man. Pete Thorn says, John, thanks, man. Appreciate everything you do. Hey, man, I appreciate what you do. I've learned all kinds of things this week about apps and all kinds of things. So this is always super fun for me too. I look forward to it every week. I really do. Pete, would you happen to know Mitch Allen in LA as a producer? Says Steven. I don't actually. I don't think we've met, but hope to meet him at some point. Any thoughts on the old school quadriverb? Was thinking of using the parametric EQ. I don't know about the EQ in it, but I remember the quadriverb well. I used one in the 80s when they first came out, and they were like all the rage. You know, it was kind of the inexpensive, you know, there was like Digitech and Alesis, and the quadriverb was one of those things. Now, Ty Tabor used either quadriverb or a MIDI verb 2 on one of the sort of doubling settings or whatever for his lead tone all the time, and I always loved his sound. So he had a great sound with that gear. It was either MIDI verb 2 or the quadriverb. I can't remember which he used. Yeah. Do I enjoy autographing guitars for fans, says Marin. I don't know if I enjoy it, but I don't mind doing it at all. Generally on the back plate with a silver or gold pen is how I like to do it, because I always feel like, do you really want that on the finish of the guitar? I don't know. MIDI verb 2, says Kurt. Yeah, I think that's what he is, a MIDI verb 2, which was like a precursor to the quadriverb. Lawrence says, when you change strings, you do one at a time or all at once? It depends on the guitar. I tend to kind of just get like lazily do all at once, even though I think it's better to do one at a time, but I just kind of pull them all these days. I'll leave one on so that the bridge on a Les Paul or something, so the tailpiece doesn't fall off, or so that you don't have to do that on a Strat, but yeah, I kind of just take them all off these days. Oh man, that Ty tone was great, says Adam. I agree. His solo tone, man, some of those early records was just awesome. You know, he's a great guitar player. Love that band. Does the Goto Tremolo bridge have excellent tuning stability? It absolutely does. Yeah, it improves tuning stability on everything I've put it on, and it's pretty awesome. What I found is the nut on the guitar, of course, is the big factor. Then once you've got the strings locked at the bridge, and if the nut's cut right, you got no tuning problems. It's amazing. Have I tried Seymour Duncan Antiquity singles to Sir singles? I've never compared them, but I like the Antiquity humbuckers, and I do have those still in a Les Paul, and I think they're real good pickups. And generally speaking, I think Seymour Duncan makes really good pickups. You know, as far as like an easy to get aftermarket kind of pickup, I think they're fantastic. You know, that's been my experience with them over the years. I've always liked them. Used to, you know, in the 80s, I bought them all. I mean, the Jeff Beck and the Full Shred and the Custom and the Custom 5 and the Custom, and, you know, I tried them all. I was never like a DiMarzio guy. I was always a Duncan guy, trying all the different Duncan pickups. And I remember buying a set of the Alnico 2 singles, and I quite like those in a Strat with a maple fingerboard I had. Alnico 2 Pro singles, they were called, I think. How is the PT15 non-IR doing versus the IR? People asked for it. That's from Mike. You know, to be honest, my honest feeling on it is that it's a little like, I don't think people even know it's out there, you know, and Sir kind of knows that as well. And it wasn't adequately, I don't think, promoted or, you know, marketing wise, or that, like, there's still not a website for it, for instance. And that's a little bit of an issue, but I'm not bitching, because the reality is that Sir, they got a lot. There's a limited number of people. It's still not a big company. And it's like, you know, their big release at this show was the Ombre, because it's a combo for $15.99, which is exciting to, you know, a lot of folks. And it's a really nice little amp and stuff. So they put most of their time and effort, I feel like, at this NAMM show into letting people know that that amp was out there. But the website for that amp just went live recently. So they've got a lot on their plate, you know. Marketing and artist stuff is all done by the same sort of people, and so it's like there's only so much they can do. They're not a huge company. So my honest assessment is not a lot of people actually still know that maybe there is a PT15 non-IR. So, which, when you think about it, essentially you've got for $200 more, I think, than, or maybe $300, you've got a Sir, an amp that's a little bit more than a Sir Badger, that has 3 full channels and a true properly tube buffered effects loop in the whole 9 yards. Like, it's quite a bit more amp than a Badger is what I'm getting at. Not that a Badger's a bad amp, it's cool, but you know, you basically got a mini Bella on the clean channel, and then with a killer Marshall overdrive side, 2 channels with a tube buffered proper bitchin' effects loop in the PT15 non-IR. What's not to like? It's $21.99 is the street for it. And you know, anyways, I gotta go. It's 1:45. Let's see here. I gotta split. Answer one more thing, and then I'm gonna go. So Aquila says he's got to go to the hospital now for a scan in Auckland, and it's like a ghost town. I know, it's like that the world over, man. Well, everybody stay safe. Do the whole self-isolating thing. Write some songs and play guitar if you can. Right? And let's see. Oh, yeah. Matthias says, I remember you saying you wrecked your car on the way to the guitar store because you were so excited to get a pickup. That's right. I was on my way to buy the blue Saraceno Trembucker, and I got in a car wreck, you know. So I should have been, you know, I'm still the guitar nerd that is like that. Watch out if there's a new pickup that comes out and I'm excited about it. Don't stay on the road at the same time. Get off the roads. Get out of my way. All right. You guys take care. Everybody have a great week. Stay safe. Don't go out. Stay home. Watch Netflix. Play guitar. All this will be over before you know it. I'll see you next Sunday, okay? Have a great week. This week coming out, I got this video coming for this plugin, and also I think I'm going to turn it into a mixing metal guitars to cut through video. So that'll be like a separate video I put out this week with some of the same content in there. So some EQ tricks and stuff like that I'm doing. And in addition to that, video coming this week that is kind of the last of my classic rock show vlogs. I've got footage that was lying around from the whole last couple of weeks of the tour, so I'm putting that all together in one thing that's actually turning out pretty cool. Probably be like a 15-minute video with a bunch of sound check footage and a little bit about gear, some of the venues, a little bit of Beatles stuff. It's going to be cool. So that's coming up this week. So YouTube, full speed ahead during the Corona crisis. Servando is up there in the top chat. He says, real quick before you go, what's your favorite Plexi in a box? I answered that at the beginning, actually, but that's okay. We'll do it again because you might not have been here. It's probably the Revival Drive from Origin. We got to give them credit. It's an incredible pedal that does something that no other distortion pedal does, which is imitate the ghost notes of a vintage, Marshall Plexi or AC30s, or they had this ghosting thing. And when you try it, if you try the big Revival drive, you'll go like, oh, it's just got this thing that it's hard to argue with. It's got a fatness and a complexity to it that with that ghosting control that you just can't get out of any other pedal. That's really cool. Not to mention that it will bond with just about any amp, be it bright or super dark, because there's so many controls on it to voice the pedal for whatever you're plugging into, from a flat power amp to a blackface style Fender bright chimey thing that scoop mids to a bright, more upper mid aggressive Marshall. There's all kinds of settings on that pedal to tune it for whatever you're plugging into. Okay, everybody, have a great week, and we will see you next time. Take care.